That's a tough act to follow, let me tell you. Oh my God. So, see, what's really difficult about performing is that if you're not prepared, everything seems to go downhill from there. And let me tell you, you probably can't see it, but that's what's going on right now. So, let me just, oh, thanks. I promise I was better earlier. You know, if I just start singing, maybe that's the way I'll entertain you all. So, in the meanwhile, every night I am dead, and the brightest colors fill my head. Okay. Sorry about that. Wow, oh my God. Okay, no. That's a really tough act to follow. Legacy. Legacy. What is a legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden you never get to see. When I was in first grade, I would have told you that my legacy is going to be entertaining the world as a famous singer and actress. As an 8th grader, I would have told you my legacy was going to be curing diseases as a renowned microbiologist. But if you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have told you that my legacy would have been another simple statistic. Part of the 1 million people who kill themselves every year. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. And 3 years ago, on October 3rd of 2015, it nearly became mine. That day, I sat on the floor of my mother's bathroom, sobbing hysterically in her arms because I was blinded by nothing but vivid imagery of our silver kitchen knives slitting my wrist vertically and killing me within a matter of seconds. But you see, depression is no stranger to my mother and I. For years, I watched my mother suffer from her own dark thoughts and witnessed the destructive toll they've taken on her. When I was 12, my mom's ex-boyfriend, Peter Black, committed suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning, exactly the way he said he would. And when I was in 7th grade, I attempted suicide by overdose, but broke down and stopped midway through, walking away luckily unharmed. So at midnight of October 3rd, my mother did not hesitate to listen to my desperate cry for help. She had worked so hard to conquer her own demons and was determined to not lose me to mine. I confessed to her that I was horrified to be left alone, that I had been in pain for months, and that for months I was using my body as a canvas for paintings made with blood and knives. My mind morphed into a television advertising suicide as a paradise escape on the daily, and I couldn't summon the strength to shut it off. She rushed me to St. Mary's Medical Center to be placed on suicide watch. And as I stared out the car window, wet from the rain, I remember asking myself, how did I get like this? My story began in Los Angeles, where I was born an adorable, curly-haired baby girl, if you can't tell, also an only child. I was named after the singer Monica, which was rather fitting because for as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a world-famous singer and performer who all the people of the world would adore. My dad moved to New Jersey before I was born, and I've never had much of a relationship with him. That meant that my very small family consisted of me and my mom. We struggled financially at times, but my mom never hesitated to put in extra hours to make sure I had everything I needed and even put in a little extra in the bank to help me pursue my wildly expensive dreams. But when I was 12, my mom's job brought us to Reno. That transition was tough for me. Just as I was entering adolescence, I had to leave everything I had known to move to a new city in a new state. And honestly, I didn't handle things very well. In Los Angeles, I was an outgoing and amiable kid. But in Reno, I transformed into a shy girl looking desperately for a place to belong. Quite frankly, I was angry. I stopped singing and performing. I felt out of place and wanted nothing more than to go back home. As I started 6th grade that fall, urgently seeking out any kind of acceptance, I didn't hesitate to latch onto the first group who paid attention to me, a group of troublemakers and mean girls. Although it was entirely out of my character, I became one of them. I turned into a bully and started getting myself into some trouble. My relationship with the Boys and Girls Club, though, began the following summer. I needed a place where I could build more positive friendships and keep myself out of trouble. And when my mom discovered that the club's Neal Road site wasn't far from our house, we were both eager for me to join. And that first summer, as a club kid, was fantastic. I met new friends, and we made the most out of every day, playing basketball, laughing under shaded trees, and even sharing a few tears from bee stings and scraped knees. But the most vivid thing I remember about that summer were the leaders in training, more commonly known as the LITs. These teen leaders were my role models, and they made every part of my club experience even better. A girl by the name of Michaela was my favorite LIT. I stuck by her side every day. Every day, she would greet me with a smile and a big hug. I helped her with her chores around the club and enjoyed some good girl talk with her. She made me feel like family, and I knew that one day, I wanted to be an LIT too. Attending the club helped bring out that exuberant and loving little girl I was in Los Angeles. But unfortunately, that experience was short-lived as summer ended and school started. I wasn't able to get from my new school all the way to Neal Road, and my connection with the club was put on a hold. I started middle school that year, and while things started off well enough, it wasn't long before I began slipping back into my old habits. I once again managed to get in with a bad crowd and was willing to do just about anything to fit in, and I ended up landing myself in some deep trouble. Quite honestly, I felt like a failure and a disappointment, which led me to my first personal encounter with depression. At the time, my depression was only an acquaintance who left a few scars on my arms and led me to an experiment with suicide. It faded quite rapidly, but the episode was one that continued to haunt me in the following months and years. The summer before high school started, I decided to make a fresh start. Immediately, I remembered Michaela and the LIT program at the Boys and Girls Club. My mom was on board, and about a week later, I had the signature green LIT shirt in my hand as I started my first day of volunteering at the club's William N. Pennington facility. My first summer as an LIT taught me a lot, although honestly, it was pretty scary. Being surrounded by hordes of energetic children when you're a shy little soul is quite the experience. But it forced me to come out of my shell. Over time, the kids began to listen to me and call me their favorite staff. Someone even ran up to me and greet me with the same fierce hugs that I used to give Michaela. I once again felt like I had a place to belong. Actively leading daily activities with younger club members gave me a sense of confidence I had never experienced before. By the end of that summer, I felt prepared to take high school on headfirst with the new set of skills and sense of purpose I found at the club. I thought these feelings would never fade away, but unfortunately, I was mistaken. A study conducted through the Boys and Girls Club of America found that kids who attend the club for 52 days per year, an average of about once a week, see an increase in their school effort confidence in their overall abilities and a decrease in their levels of shyness and aggression. After a kid attends the club for 104 days per year, or an average of about twice a week, these positive effects are even greater. Simply put, the more frequently a kid attends the club and the longer they stay per visit, the bigger the impact. My first year as an LIT, I was at the club for the whole summer, and I most definitely experienced these character and confidence boosts. But the key to maintaining these improvements is consistency in attendance. And for one reason or another over the years, that consistency always seemed to fade away. Once high school started, I stopped volunteering at the club daily because I was concerned it would interfere with schoolwork. So instead, I focused on working toward the opportunity to earn a junior staff position the following summer, where I would receive a paycheck for working at the club. That process included attending classes that taught teens how to better their future, such as Money Matters, Career Launch, and Diplomas to Degrees. Granted, while I learned a lot of useful material in these classes, I was no longer serving in a leadership role surrounded by kids, staff, and peers every day. Instead, my time at the club was relegated to a few hours each week in a classroom. As my fellow teen members continued to volunteer and talk about the impact they were making, I found myself feeling distant and inadequate. Without the daily reinforcement I found at the club, I began to lose myself in a sea of confusion. A month into the school year, I began sensing a familiar feeling. The return of an old acquaintance, only this time it was developing into a deep, dark friendship. I lost my focus and concentration quickly. I began feeling heavier as each day passed, dragging my feet from one daily task to the next. I lost interest in most everything, and living became something that I had to do simply because there wasn't another choice. I recognized what was going on, but I refused to believe that it was happening again. Life wasn't perfect, but it was good, and I felt like I shouldn't be feeling this way. So I tried to ignore it. But I became overcome by a nagging sense of hopelessness, as if my life would never be whole and there was nothing I could do about it. All my insecurities and fears merged into one demon and followed me like a shadow that I could not rid. For months, my sanity was slipping until I lost it all on October 3rd. I was discharged from St. Mary's after a few hours, but the suicidal thoughts still loomed. And in a final, desperate attempt to rescue myself, I landed a spot in West Hills Mental Hospital for 3 days. The road to recovery is never easy, but it is also never impossible. Through it all, my mom never left my side. In fact, through my darkest and most desperate times, our relationship got even stronger. The support I found in her, along with the Boys and Girls Club, helped me realize that I wasn't completely gone. When I was discharged, I resumed attending the weekly classes at the club. I told no one what had happened, but at my first meeting back after West Hills, I seemed to catch the attention of the then LIT coordinator, Tatiana Anderson Hall. She shot a concerned glance my way and asked if I was okay. I looked back at her, smiled, and quickly nodded my head yes. In that instant, Tatiana made me feel something that I hadn't felt in a while. Noticed. I wasn't just another body sitting in a classroom. Someone saw me, and someone cared. And that was the first step forward in my healing journey. I had finally discovered where I could find the remote to power off my demons and find a reflection of who I really was in my television. By the end of freshman year, my depression subsided. I also reaped the rewards from my club commitments during the school year as I became a paid junior staff at Pennington. That first summer being paid was great, not only because I was making money, but because I got to resume my daily attendance at the club, which helped me maintain my path to recovery. However, the best part about that summer is that when it came to a close, my time at the club wouldn't go into a hiatus again because Tatiana offered me one of only a few paid school year positions. Needless to say, I was ecstatic. Only until I found out that Tatiana wanted to transfer me to another site. Bresson Avenue, now known as the Donald L. Corona facility. Initially, the thought of moving scared me because I had formed strong bonds with Pennington's members and staff. But as of late, I couldn't thank Tatiana enough for moving me. After a couple months at the Corona facility, I experienced a breakup and expressed my emotions at the club. A fellow team member was by my side to comfort me. He asked me if I had any family to console me as well. I told him that my family is small, and besides my mother, I didn't. And he promptly called me a liar. I looked at him like he was crazy, and before I could even respond, he exclaimed, "What do you mean your family is small? All of us here at the club are your family." As I recalled my years at the club, I realized how true his words were. The people at the club have become part of a second family, and today, the Corona facility is my home away from home. In this family, I've had the chance to bond with the father I never had, the Corona site coordinator, Marquise Daniels Hatcher. Marquise showed me how to interact with adult men, something that was very difficult for me without a dad in my life. I often stayed late after the club closed, and during these times, Marquise and I would talk about how our days went. He gave me an outlet to vent to and presented me with words of wisdom in return that I'll always remember. We somehow began calling this our tea time, although regrettably, we never actually drank any tea. There is Tatiana, now our teen services director and my mentor. I've learned from her example how to become a young woman who is self-assured and ambitious, and she ingrained her famous catchphrase into my head that I can never be too overdressed or overeducated. There is Eddie Guth, our art coordinator, and basically my talent manager. Eddie helped me rekindle my passion for singing. I've never had someone who desired for me to succeed so much with my talent. He connected me with voice lessons and has given me opportunities to perform at club events, including early tonight, as y'all know. Okay, thanks. There is Kaylani Vaca, our sports, fitness, and recreation coordinator, and my reminder to keep fighting. Kaylani gave me her phone number to call at any time of any day if I ever feel alone. She told me to remember that this too shall pass and encouraged me that the sun will always rise tomorrow and I can try again. But perhaps above anybody, there are our members who make up the younger siblings in this family of mine. After all, it is the kids at the club who have saved me the most. I still have days where life gets overwhelming, but I know that I am a leader, and leaders never quit. Our members show me what resilience is when they fall off the monkey bars, only to get back up and try again and again until they master it. They remind me to keep trying, and that surrendering is never an option. They don't realize it, but they're my role models, just as I am one of theirs. But I also want to take a moment to thank my mom. She is my biggest support, my foundation, and the one person I know will always be there. Our relationship is built on transparency and honesty, and for that, I couldn't be any more grateful. I love you, Mama. Today, I am still a junior staff at Corona. In fact, Marquise has tasked me with the tremendous responsibility of managing our front counter. From behind that desk, I get to work closely with every person who benefits from the club, from staff to members and to parents. I've been exposed to walks of life that I could have never imagined, and that experience has pushed me to become a proactive leader, getting to know our families and connecting them with the resources they need to better their lives. My involvement at the Boys and Girls Club over the past 5 years has empowered me and given me the strength to pick up the fragmented pieces of my old self to form an ambitious and intelligent young lady. I am a senior at DeMonte Ranch High School with a 4.7 GPA, and I will go to college next fall. I haven't landed on a career path quite yet, but the club has made me realize that I want to do something that involves helping others, like a nurse or a therapist. I still love to use my voice to entertain, but I also want to use it to advocate for others who may not have a voice of their own. You see, if I can change my community, then I can go on to change the world. And that will be my legacy.